Salam.
I feel like we need a big group hug. So last year, a friend of mine, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and I had told her about some of the struggles that I was going through in teaching in Saturday school, where I felt like I wasn't really a good teacher. I was really trying to connect with my students and they weren't really responding well. And I told her that, I don't think that I'm good at this, and I think that I need to quit. And she looked at me and she said something that I've remembered ever since, and she said, a lot of the things that you think about yourself aren't true. And so this is a meditation about that idea, and I've been thinking about it ever since. There's an anecdote about elephants when they grow up in domesticated environments. When they grow up, say for instance in a circus, when the trainer is trying to raise them, it ties a little string around one of its legs so that it doesn't run away. And it tries to run away a couple of times, but eventually it gets accustomed to the idea that it can't, so it stops. However, when the elephant grows up and it becomes the biggest mammal on Earth, it stops trying to run away, even though the elephant trainer uses the same string that it had on it from when it was a kid, because it's been conditioned to think that it's not strong enough to escape. And even though it's now the strongest being physically on Earth, the fact that that idea exists in its mind, that it's not strong enough, doesn't even allow it to try anymore. And so that made me start to think when I heard that, about what is it that forms our identity? Is it from pain? Is it from loss? Is it from gratitude, as one of our previous brothers mentioned? Where do we get our ideas from of who we are? And so recently I came across this French artist by the name of Marcel Duchamp. Some of you may have seen his work. He's one of the most influential people in Western art. So he took this piece called The Fountain, which is like this seminal piece in Western art. It's like basically, it's a men's urinal. And he took it basically off the wall. So if you imagine like it's straight, he took it off the wall and put it this way on the floor. And that's it. And so if you're like one of those people who hates pretentious modern art, and you hate this piece because it's worth millions of dollars. And so you start to think, how can that possibly be worth millions of dollars? But that's exactly what Duchamp is asking. He's asking, how do we create meaning or a narrative for something? Once it's removed from its original context, and we take out the original meaning that it was given to it, can it still be the same thing? How hard is it to recreate a narrative of something that's already been written? If you take something like a urinal, which is the most profane, probably thing in existence, something that you urinate into, how hard is it to change the narrative of that thing? Is it even possible? Is what he's asking. And I know a lot of us have these stories, I know I do, of when someone told you something and it just stuck in your mind, and even though it's completely illogical. Like for me, my dad always told me that if I use the caps lock key too much, the keyboard's gonna break. So I should always use shift and then press the button. I should never use caps lock. And to this day, I just can't use caps lock. I feel bad. And I know all of us have those little things in our minds that take bulldozers to get out. No matter how hard you try, no matter how much you tell yourself, you're unable to get it out, to shovel it away. And so, my question is, how do we construct meaning for ourselves? How much of it is what other people, or what other things, or what other environments dictate upon us? Because, darling, when I saw you fall asleep, I saw the pain lift from your eyes. And I saw the disenchantment and the lack of life lift from your eyes when you fell asleep, because you no longer had to look at yourself in the mirror and question what your worth was. But when you wake up, I saw your shoulders slump. I saw the disenchantment set back in, because you started to be aware of what it is you were and what it is that you were not, because of everything that you've seen around you. And as the poet Zora Howard said, your soul was an empire before they came and stuck their flags in it. Your heart was an empire before they stuck their flags in it. Their flags of models, their flags of H&M, their flags of Sprite, of Coke, of corporate America, of materialism, of a lack of spiritual depth, of whatever it is Your body, your mind, your soul, your heart was not that before it was told what to be. And so, my question is, then how do we even start to bring up what we are if you don't know what you are? And this one famous philosopher, his name is Slavoj Žižek, who I love. Any Slavoj fans in here? Yeah. So he has this one idea of the institutional unconscious, of things that exist within institutional frameworks without them being very present. So one example that he gives, and it's controversial, he says there's something about the Catholic Church, that there's something in the institutional unconscious that allows pedophilia for some reason. There's something about it there. It's not conscious, you can't find it in the text, but there's something in the unconscious that derives it. So my question is, what is in our institutional unconscious of working a 9 to 5, of having a Netflix subscription, of being on Hulu and YouTube and Facebook all day long? What is the institutional unconscious of that? Are we still the same person? Who are we before that? Can we remember it? Because I remember a time where all of us used to want things and know things with an absolute. Like, Mom, if you don't give me that candy right now, I'm gonna die. None of us have that anymore. I don't, I know for sure. I'm like, yeah, it's one piece of candy. I'll get one tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. And it becomes so dilapidated. I think I used that word correctly. Felt right. It's okay. And to the point becomes where our identity becomes objectified. Now we talk about objectification of women and what that means, where they become an object. What happens when our identities become objectified is my question. Matthew McConaughey, if you saw his Oscar speech 2 years ago, when he won for Best Actor, he gave this really long, nonsensical thing about, he was like pointing to the sky. But one thing that he did say is he talked about objectification of his identity, of who he wanted to become, and what he wanted to do to get there. And for me, it's very hard to come to terms with that idea of what does it mean to objectify my identity. What it means to say is, I am this person, I am not this person. This person says I'm this person doesn't. And it becomes to the point where it becomes an object outside of ourselves. And how do we start to reclaim that is my question. And I think that we need to pay attention to the form of our identities. Like chairs have forms. There's like the seat part, there's the legs. That's the form of a chair. But what's the form of our thoughts? And who is the one who dictated the form of our thoughts and how we think and how we construct meaning, as Duchamp argued, and how we construct identities? And so, my point is, I think one of the most important things that we can do for ourselves, I think that one of the important things that I'm trying to do in my life is trying to take out those flags one by one and start to clean out those wounds and to try to see what's there beyond all that. Is there anything? That perhaps to let God in a more pure form than what I was taught, to let love in a more pure form than I was taught. Is there a meaning beyond that? And so whenever you have an awkward conversation, it's your choice to tell yourself that you are an awkward person. Those two are not the same thing. Or that whenever you've been rejected, to tell yourself that you are unlovable. Those two are not the same thing. One is an identity, one is a fact. You can be rejected 1,000 times, but not consider yourself unlovable, because that's a choice. And so, my friends, when you look at yourself, I ask to look down and remember that you are stronger, smarter, bigger now than you were, and you are bigger than those elephant chains. Thank you.